and therefore we're now recording with our special guest, Eddie Capparucci. And Eddie, I will turn it over to you.
Jay, thank you. Thank you so much. I always enjoy being here. I enjoy, the whole, your audience, your following. It's just delightful. Yes, there is something new that I am working on. It is going to be the latest book, which will be out in the first quarter of next year, and it is entitled Why Men Struggle to Love. And it's really going to be looking more deeper at how we struggle to create emotional intimacy and what is at the root of that, which is basically the fact that in the early stages of childhood development, where we should have learned how to attune, how to hold on to and deal with emotional distress, how to have empathy. Those things we weren't taught. Because of that, that left a deficit in us in our ability to love the way God designed us to love. So that's what the new book is about. And like I said, that'll be out in the first quarter of next year. So again, thank you. I appreciate being here. Today, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different, although it is something that really is critical when it comes to the whole area and of recovery, and that is lying. I'm calling this the art of lying, being dishonest. You've all heard that, when it comes to, the idea of betrayal, that the people who've been betrayed, they say that it is the lying that hurts most. They'll tell you it's the dishonesty that crushes them. And a large part of that, again, is the idea that if I can't trust you, then there's no foundation in this relationship. And if we turn the tables and we were to look at our partner, our mate, our spouse, and to think that, oh, I can't trust him or her, think about how we would feel, that anxiousness that we would endure on a regular basis, because we feel like there's not somebody there who has our back that we can lean on. So trust is something that's extremely important in any relationship. And I did want to share a quote with you that I found. Rick Daron, I'm sorry, he's an author of many books. He said, it takes strength and courage to admit the truth. And it does. It takes courage and it takes strength to admit that what's true in our lives. And that kind of led me into Proverbs 11:3, and it talked about the integrity of the upright guides them. Okay, our integrity moves us along a path, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. And if we look at, what has gone on when it comes to our lives and our world because of our deceit, it certainly has destroyed our world. It has crushed the people around us. It has ruined our legacies. And what we need now to do is to rebuild. And rebuild starts with the whole idea of honesty. I had a client who recently said to me that he came to understand that honesty is the portal of comprehensive recovery. I was like, wow, that's pretty profound. I like that. Honesty is the portal of comprehensive recovery, because he is so right. Because if we want to fully recover, honesty has to be that foundation. And that is with our partner, it is with others, but most importantly, it's with ourselves. It's ourselves. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but this is a big issue of honesty. So what is the definition of honesty? It's basically I'm free of deceit and untruthfulness. Okay. But in truth, honesty is a foundation and a cornerstone for a fruitful life. And what do I mean by that? I mean, the fact is, if we are refraining from lying, if we are walking in integrity and being honest, okay, well, then guess what? I don't have to keep track of the lies that I've told. I don't have to sit in guilt and shame about not being, upfront with people. Okay. I don't have to worry about the fact that, you know what, I could be going down a pathway with these lies that I'm telling that could lead me into greater trouble. All of that is gone. We're free of it. We're completely free of that. But the fact of the matter is, we all lie. Everyone lies. And even if I was sitting and I was thinking about this and I was trying to come up with what I was going to talk about today, and I thought about that fact that everyone lies, I got to tell you, I struggled because I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure I really lie. But then if I thought about it, I was like, no, you know what? I do. I do. It's like, okay, I went to a seminar, not a seminar. I went to a men's retreat over the weekend where I spoke, and there were probably about, I would say, 55, 60 men. And I came home and my wife was like, oh, how was it? It's good. And like, how many men were there? I don't know, 70, 75. Like, okay, why did I throw that number out like that versus the number that was there? I wasn't even thinking about it, just threw it out. Well, what it was to be more, it's more impressive, right? Bigger number, more impressive, but it wasn't true. It wasn't the truth. And what happened, to demonstrate and to show that everyone lied, back in 1996, there was a researcher, Dr. Bella DePaulo, from the University of California in Santa Barbara. And she found out that everyone lies about once or twice a day. And the reason she discovered this, what she did was she had a group of about 147 participants. And what she did was she had them write down for 1 week, write down every time they lied. And of those 147, only 7 came back saying they did not lie at all. And many of the lies that were told that people recorded were fairly innocent. It was like, I told her she looked good, but really I thought she looked really tired and worn. Some people lie because they felt embarrassed about things. Like, for example, one, her spouse was fired from his job and she wasn't disclosing that information to people. Dr. DePaulo said that many of the participants in the study many times were not even aware of how many lies they told, because often they're just, it's something that is a habit that we have. It's just ordinary and it just come to be expected. And when we look at lying, she learned that women are more likely to lie to avoid hurting other people's feelings, where men are more likely to lie about themselves and more likely to lie to impress. And that gives you the lie that I recently told. But basically, in many cases, the issue is we lie and we don't even notice we're doing it. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what that is, because I think if we know that and understand it, that is what's going to help us moving forward and being able to manage our lying. So let's start off with first talking about the brain and what happens with the brain when we lie. Well, basically, it impacts 3 areas of our brain when we tell a lie. The first is the prefrontal cortex, okay? And this is what gives us that ability to be dishonest, because this is where we do our rational thinking, okay? So if I tell the truth, she's gonna be angry with me. So therefore, you know what? I'm better off lying. Okay, rational thinking, that's number 1. The second part of the brain that's activated is the limbic system. back here. The limbic system, that's the emotional warehouse of the brain. That's where our pleasure and our emotional pain is regulated. And what regulates that is something which I'm sure you guys have all heard by now called the amygdala. The amygdala is that thermostat. So therefore our pain level doesn't get too high and our pleasure level doesn't get too high. And in many of us, our amygdala is broken. We have a broken thermostat and we have to learn how to regulate better. So what happens now, somebody confronts us, and what happens is the amygdala will override the prefrontal cortex, and therefore developing this sense of panic, this guilt, this stress. And it's like, oh no, I definitely can't, tell her the truth, because not only will, I be in trouble, but we'll be up all night just discussing this. This will be awful. I got to shut it down right now. Because see, your prefrontal cortex may say, you know what, yes, you probably, we could lie about it, but we probably shouldn't. Let's be truthful. But then again, if the amygdala gets involved and starts to override it, that's not going to happen. Because the amygdala is so powerful. And then the third part of the brain that's impacted and activated is the temporal lobe. And in the temporal lobe, that's responsible for retrieving memories for us, okay, and creating this mental imagery. So imagine that you do something wrong, and now here come back all of these flooded memories of the past about the negative consequences that we're going to face. And the one thing we want to do is to avoid those negative consequences. So what do? We lie. So as you can see, we got three elements of the brain. They're all working together: our rational thinking, our irrational thinking, as well as the idea of retrieving memory from the past. So when a crisis strikes, it's like we've created a perfect storm in the brain. And if we don't slow things down in order to make a better decision, we're not going to tell the truth. What this is, it shows you that this is our emotionally based thinking at work. The rational part of our brain has shut down, and therefore we're just dishonest. And I think about how many times you might have been dishonest and you just sat there and said, oh, why did I say that? That doesn't make any sense. I wasn't even going to get in trouble for that. But there's a sense of panic that goes on within us. And something is so important in all of this, and I'm going to say it here, I'm going to say it again later, but I'm going to emphasize it now, is our ability to slow everything down. It is such a simple concept. It is difficult to do, but it is critical for recovery. Actually, it's critical in all aspects of our lives. If you learn to slow everything down, I promise you will make less irrational decisions in your life, and you will have a lot more peace. The problem is, for many of us, we just go. We just go with that impulsive action. Learning how to slow everything down doesn't happen when we're at that moment and we have to slow down. You have to start practicing that every day, throughout the day, taking those few minutes just to sit. This is what it's like to slow down. And there's going to be all this anxiety, there's going to be all this anxiousness, but it's like we don't want us to just sit there. I feel like we need to be doing something. I have to be involved. No, and I'm not saying, sit and watch TV. I'm saying just sit quietly, slow down the thoughts that are coming. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that is something that's very, very important. Lying becomes a major problem, okay? Because you just seen, I told you, it could be a bit of a problem along the way, but it becomes a major problem when we use it in order to manipulate others or to purposely mislead others. Now, if you look back, lying really is nothing new for us who struggle with addiction. Okay. I refer to it as the hide and lie syndrome. I think from a very early age, we learn that, you know what, it's better to fly underneath the radar, blend in with the scenery, not to be noticed at times so that we don't get in trouble. And also that lying at an early age has a benefit. And the benefit, it protects us. It protects us. Because see, if lying didn't have a benefit, we wouldn't engage in it. Wouldn't do it. If you look at pornography, you look at sexual addiction, okay, what's the benefit? The benefit is it creates a sense of soothing. Okay, it helps us to escape from it. It helps us not to sit with our emotional discomfort and pain that we have. That's what the benefit is. It's not a good benefit because we need to learn how to sit with this discomfort. That's part of what you need to learn in the recovery process. In fact, I think it's one of the keys to being able to have successful recovery, sitting with discomfort. We don't do a good job with that. So therefore, lying did serve a purpose for us. It helped to protect us. What did it protect us from? It protected us from fear. The fear that I'm in trouble. That's what it is. And don't we have almost the same fear now? The fear. I'm in trouble. And we don't want to be in trouble, right? The other thing that it does, it helped us, but there are many times we may have felt that we were being falsely accused, especially if we had older siblings who were always kind of pointing the finger at us, being falsely accused. And after a while, it becomes, you know what, you just lie, even though you may not have done anything, you lie anyway. Or if you did do something, you're trying to protect yourself. What happened basically is we panic. There's panic. It's the fear of saying something wrong. And because we're afraid that we're going to say something wrong, what happens there most times? We omit things. We leave things out. And that's another form of lying, basically. And we still carry that whole fear with us now, today. It still sits within us. So therefore, somebody approaches to say, explain, and the amygdala takes over. Temporal lobe take over and just do all the flood of the things, consequences, what had happened before. The prefrontal cortex said, yeah, lying probably the most rational thing right now. And here we go. We're just doing it. So, again, so you ask the question of, why? So why lie though? Because it worked at times. At times it worked. We got away with things. But it never really works all the time. And it's only usually a temporary thing before we wind up getting caught. It becomes an ingrained habit. It's just there for us. But the problem with not being honest is that it's going to rob you of your place of comfort. And it's going to bring you to a place of discomfort. Right? Because I can't be comfortable if I know there's something there that I am struggling with. I can't be comfortable if I know I'm deceiving other people. I can't be comfortable because I have to make sure do I have all my facts in order. I can't be comfortable because I worry about all the consequences. And what we want is we want comfort. And learning to be honest allows us to put ourselves in a place of comfort. And finally, the other aspect of it is that we can't be honest with ourselves. I talked about that a little bit earlier. I said, so because we can't be honest with ourselves, I don't want to look at the ugliness inside. I don't want to see the darkness. I don't want to say to God, Lord, take my heart and circumcise it, cut it in half, and let me see the darkness that lies here. Let me see that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to touch that raw nerve that's there. So instead, I'm going to be dishonest with myself. And I'm going to justify, I'm going to create justifications for my action. All guys do this. You know what? Hey, she doesn't know about it. And if she doesn't know about it, it doesn't hurt her. Our relationship is fine. We're good. No, you're not good. You're not good at all, because guess what? I put a wedge in between me and her. I put this wedge there. I can't fully connect. I may make myself believe I am, but I'm not fully connecting, because there's a lot of guilt and shame that won't allow it to happen. So therefore, I'm not being fair to her. I'm not being fair to the relationship. Okay. You could lie and justify it in the sense that, you know what, I deserve this. I deserve this. I mean, she hasn't had sex with me in 2 weeks. I deserve to go do this. She hasn't complimented me on the work I've been doing, but that woman at work, boy, she's like all over me with that. Yeah, what? I deserve this. We can justify our actions, but that doesn't make our actions right. They don't make them right in the pain that we cause other people, the fact that we're not living the way God designed us to live, that fruitful, abundant life. We don't have it. I can, just share, many of you guys have heard my story and what I've been through. And I thought I was living a very abundant life. Okay. I had the family life at home, and I had the other life on the side, and I have a great career, and, I'm very financially well off, all of that stuff. But there was something missing. There was this void, this huge void that was there, and this lack of contentment. Never happy. I was a guy you looked at from the outside, you look at it and you said, my God, he's got everything. And I did have quite a bit, but there was no sense of satisfaction. And that's why I kept chasing what I thought would be satisfaction. And it wasn't satisfaction. That's not what I was chasing. What I was chasing was trying to develop emotional intimacy. And as I chased, I had to be more deceitful. I had to be more dishonest. And what that did, by being more dishonest, by being more deceitful, what that took that void and made it even larger. So now my sense of just being discontent grew. It's a cycle that we just manifest through. And we need to change it. So the question becomes, okay, so why is it so important that you be honest now? Okay, you're probably in recovery. Maybe your spouse is still struggling to recover, and it's like, so what's important about? Why do I have to be so careful about being honest in every single thing I do? Such as her saying, "Did you eat the last brownie?" No, I didn't eat it. No, that wasn't me. I mean, everything we have to be honest. Why? Well, what are we trying to do right now? Right? We're trying to transform our hearts, and we're trying to become men of integrity. But what else are we trying to do? We're trying to build a sense of safety for the people we hurt, right? We're trying to create comfort for them. Well, sitting here and just saying, honey, you really don't have to worry anymore. I don't look at porn. You're good. We're good. I don't look at it anymore. No, honey, no, I do not go to massage parlors any longer. I do not go and, engage escorts. That problem's behind me. Why in the world should she believe you? I mean, in her mind, your lips are moving, so therefore you're lying anyway. So why is she going to believe that? You know what? In reality, she's not. What she needs to see is your honesty across the board, even if there are going to be consequences. She leaves you a voicemail. Hey, do me a favor. Will you stop on the way home and pick up milk? Okay. And you go home, you don't listen to your voicemail. You get home and like, hey, where's the milk? It's like, oh, what milk? What milk? She's like, well, I left you a voicemail about the milk. And, it's like, oh, I didn't get that voicemail. The thing is, you didn't listen to it. Oh, I didn't get it. And then all of a sudden you grab your phone and say, oh, here it is. Oh, well, I guess I didn't look at it. That's a lie. So if we're lying for the little things, when you go to tell her about the big things, like, yes, I was in that neighborhood today. I had to stop to meet a client, and there was a adult bookstore across the street, but I didn't go in. Why is she supposed to believe you? In reality, she can't. That's why it's so important for us to be honest about everything. And the only way you go do that is to be able to slow everything down. So how do we go about this whole idea? First and foremost, one, we have to admit that we have a problem. We have a problem with honesty. We've had it since we were younger. And we have to start to figure out, okay, I need to make a change in my life, that I am going to do everything I can to be completely transparent and honest with everything I do. And I say almost like that because I don't think it'll be perfect. But if I do, I tell a lie, like, oh, wait, back up. You know what? That's wrong. Oh, you know what? I didn't get it. No, you know what? That's not true. I didn't look at my voicemail. I didn't look to see what I had. I'm sorry. I should have listened to that before I left the office. And you catch yourself with it. Or better yet, remember I told you, slow everything down. Okay, voicemail. Did I? You know what, honey? I didn't even listen to my voicemail. I'm really sorry about that. You have to be in tune to your emotions. Okay. People often lie to themselves and their others because they really don't know how they're feeling right now. They just don't understand what they're feeling at the moment. And you might have a lot of anxiety, which then is generating this fear, this undercurrent of fear. And with that could lead you to be lying. So therefore, again, I tell people to try to keep a journal of what their emotions are. What are your emotions? What have you been feeling lately? Or at least take the time throughout the day to sit there and say, how am I doing? How am I doing emotionally? And not just emotionally, how am I doing physically? How am I doing mentally? How am I doing spiritually? Mentally, do I have a lot of racing thoughts going on right now? You know, have I been drifting off into fantasy? Have I had a hard time focusing on things? Physically, how am I doing? Am I hurting anywhere? Do I have any kind of pain? Do I feel kind of tired or exhausted? So this way we understand. Remember, you've heard me say that means we're drained. If we're drained in any of those four areas, bad things happen, including lying. Need to understand what are your triggers. And I'm talking about your emotional triggers. Okay. You know, do you find that you may be more likely to lie to certain people or in certain circumstances or situations? Okay. If you identify those triggers, like for example, if you're feeling falsely accused about something, like I said, so people go running off with lies of different things. We need to be able to, you know, figure out what is at the source of what we're doing and what we're lying. And of course, the most common reason for lying is I want to avoid the conflict or I'm feeling anxious. So if I want to avoid conflict, why do I want to avoid conflict all the time? Well, the simple answer is I want comfort. But there's no simple answer in our world anymore. The world doesn't have simple answers. And we have to look beyond what we want, and we have to look outside to what others want, and what they want is transparency and they want honesty. That's what they want. And we have to give that to them, despite the fact that it makes me feel uncomfortable. You have to learn how to deal with those negative feelings. Remember what I said to you before? We don't like to sit with negative emotions. We don't like to sit with negative circumstances. This, I believe, again, is the core of every addiction. The inability to sit with this pain. So we avoid it. And we'll avoid it a lot by lying. And in most cases, those lies are omissions. No, I don't remember that. No, I don't recall that. No, you know, that's what we'd be doing. Instead of sitting with it and just telling the truth. And when you do lie, tell someone, confess. Confession is good for the soul. It's great for the soul. It's needed. Learn to be an open book about everything. Everything. You know, there's times like I said before, where I was going through all this whole thing, and I thought, well, you know, I don't really lie because I've always prided myself on how much I tell my wife the truth about everything. And there's even times I've told her things, and what I've gotten back, I sat there and said, why did you even share this? You know, my gosh, I could have made my life so much more simple if I didn't tell her that. But I just feel compelled to tell her that, to be honest as possible. Yeah, I'm not honest with everything. There's little things that pop up that might say, oh, yeah, there were, 75 guys and there were really 60. It's those things. But you have to be an open book. And the other idea is, again, to slow everything down. Because ultimately, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to have the transformation of the heart, to change our character, to walk along that pathway of sanctification, to continue to be Christ-like. And as you've heard me say before, we will be light years away from that on the day of judgment. But at least God sees and he said, wow, you're moving down the right path. And I know you're going to stumble. I know you're going to fall, but I'm just so proud that you're walking my way. And that's what we need to do. So that's what I got for you today, Jay.
Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate it so much. And welcome to those who are joining late. I'm sorry I didn't get the invitation to you a little bit early. If you want to ask Eddie a question before he has to go, and I think he has to go about 12:50, is that right?
Yeah, about 12:45 actually. I'm sorry.
12:45. Okay,
Yeah.
so we got about 8 minutes for questions. If you want to ask Eddie a question, go ahead into the chat function and just go ahead and type that in, and we'll send the question on to Eddie. So let's begin, Eddie. In the recovery program that I am a part of, there is a section called a caution, which says, be careful to dump all of your stuff onto your family members, particularly your spouse, without consultation with sponsor or group. So because my addiction is a fix, and I want when I get into recovery, I think, okay, well, this is another fix. I'm going to get rid of this quickly. So 28 years ago, when I told my wife, I just dumped it all out. I was very honest. But what I didn't understand was, in honesty, what my spouse, what my wife wanted to know, and that's why it says that there should be a significant period of sobriety, is how can I trust him again if he's just dumping this in a so-called honest way? Or is this part of a change in his life that I can put some faith in, that has a track record, and his honesty is coming out of the genuine desire to live a new life? Do you have any counsel for us in that area?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. That's a really a good point. One thing is this idea of people dumping, when you're dumping, are you dumping because, again, I do want to be honest, I want everyone to know, or am I just dumping because I want to feel good about myself? And that's not part of what should be going on. But the other thing with the idea of, sharing like that, the key is consistency. It's about being consistent in what we do. And see, when we talk here, I'm of the mindset with what I've been saying, that I'm talking to men who've probably been through the initial disclosure of what got on. But yes, if you have it, before you put all that out there, you should be sitting with someone, talk about how that process goes. What do I do? How do I approach it with someone? Because again, it could be very overwhelming for them. But then again, if you dump it and then there's no follow-up to all of it, if you're not doing the work, if there's not working to make sure, help her heal, then it just becomes, okay, you know what, to your point, I can't trust this. I can't trust. So I think the key here is more along the lines of consistency. They have to see that in us.
Ricky asks, he says, we're called to speak the truth in love. How does this command to love in our honesty? I mean, there's a certain, because honesty can mean pain for us and for the person that we're revealing to. How does honesty fit into this conversation about the command to love?
That's a good question. I mean, but what is love? I mean, how can I say I really love someone if I'm being deceitful with them? How can I say I love someone when I am engaging in activities that are causing them pain? How can I say I love someone and I'm not doing the right thing? Now, we could all say, oh, but I did love her. I did love her. But you know what? You were loving her the best you could. You weren't loving her the way we were commanded in Scripture. And that's what Ricky's saying here. The way we're commanded to speak the truth in love, okay? That means I'm going to put it out here and I'm going to confess. I'm going to bare my soul. I'm going to be vulnerable. Vulnerable is a key aspect of love. I'd really question, I'd ask everybody in this room when they were going through their stuff, how many of you were vulnerable? I would imagine that percentage is going to be very, very low. And even as you began recovery, and maybe even still now, the struggle to be vulnerable is a difficult one.
I think a lot of addiction, sex addiction certainly, is pain avoidance. We learn to avoid, use it to medicate difficult pain. Paul said in his writings, he said, I die daily. And so there are these little deaths, these little pain experiences they're part of life. They're normal, but the addict doesn't think that they have any place. And so we act out to kind of medicate. I use the image of the woman who goes into a teenage son's bedroom and sprays all that stuff to get rid of the odor, but doesn't really get rid of the problem, right?
Right. Yes.
And so, and David prayed, "Search me and know me, O God." This is Psalm 139, "and see if there be any wicked way within me." So that speaks to me of a vulnerability to God to point out the things in us that need to be confessed, that need to be changed. And if we do that on a regular basis, this pain can be part of life, just like, the rainy days or sunny days or stormy days. They're all different days.
Absolutely, Jay.
But instead of having this monumental crash, we can have it as a lifestyle where we're actually confronting the idea that difficulties exist, and we have to talk about them and be honest about them.
That's right. And that's what my whole inner child model is based on, is being able to identify what are the pain points, learning to sit with them, process them, and then be able to deal with them in a very healthy way versus the way we did before, we would just go into escape.
One more question, because I know you got to go.
Okay.
You mentioned lying by omission, and very often addicts will drip out the truth. We call this selective disclosure.
Yes.
And often it will get, and the spouse often says, well, if this goes on for a while, I'm never going to get to the bottom of the truth. How do we handle that?
Yeah, well, that's when we go back, but in most cases, when we do the formal disclosure, where we'll sit and we will, using a certified professional, walk through the entire story from beginning to end. And then usually what that followed up with is a polygraph. So therefore, then it's like, okay, you know what? The spouse feels like, ooh, I've landed on firm ground. Nothing else can sideswipe me now. I know everything that I need to know. So that's normally the process that we take. But you're right, Jay. That drip, 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 drip is so destructive, and it becomes so overwhelming and traumatic for those who have to go through it.
Well, it's now 12:45, so we're going to let you go, Eddie. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who want to tune in next week, our guest will be Nick Stumbo of Pure Desire. I don't have exact topic, but it'll be great because he's always great. He has a little book that talks about, I think it's creating graceful communities, and it's how to create an environment in your church where people can be vulnerable. So Nick will be our guest. Also, you will all get a copy of this video, this Zoom video, because we'll send that out to all the email list, so you will get it. If you want to be in touch with us at Living Without Lust and get our routine emails, which we send out, e-news with all kinds of things, you can go to the website, livingwithoutlust.com, sign up for the e-news. It comes out once or twice a month. That's about all we send out. Also, we're going to have our men's conference in February here in Jacksonville, February 5th. Jake Porter, a therapist from Houston, will be coming to speak, and some information will be coming out about that in the next few weeks. So I'm going to close this with prayer, and we'll let you all get on to the rest of your day. Father, thank you for our brother Eddie, for his sharing this important message about honesty and the blessings that come from it. We ask your wisdom as we encourage, as we work through the recovery aspects of this. And we ask that you would speak to each of our hearts to show us each how we can live a more honest, open, and transparent life, to get the comfort of not having to hide, not having to be afraid of being discovered all the time, not having to cover our search list online, these kinds of things, so that we can continue down the road to freedom and blessing. Bless each man here today, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and have a great weekend.